do you do when you suspect peptic ulcer disease?
Trial PPI.
Would you do a trial of PPI? No. That's the difference. When it comes to GERD, you treat and see if it helps. When it comes to peptic ulcer disease, your philosophy is you test for H. pylori, you treat H. pylori, and then you prove eradication. Got it?
Yes.
Test, treat, prove that you've eradicated. Okay? What are the number one causes for peptic ulcer disease? H. pylori, and number 2 is NSAIDs. So NSAIDs easy, stop it, right? But if you're thinking of H. pylori, you have to test them. How are we going to test them? There's 4 methods. One is useless. I would like for them to stop talking about it so I can stop talking about it as well.
For H. pylori breath test.
So number 1 is urea breath test. Good. Which is fine. I like that one. Stool antigen, yes.
Biopsy.
I like that one too. So third one is EGD plus biopsy. Right? Number 4, which I don't like, is blood antibodies. So you test them, and then if it is positive, you start them on treatment. 2 therapies, right? You have clarithromycin, amoxicillin, PPI. Okay. Number 2 is your bismuth, metronidazole, BMT, and a PPI, right? Bismuth, metronidazole, tetracycline, a PPI, right? Now, in order for you to use a clarithromycin-based regimen, it comes with some caveats. What is the caveat?
Can't be resistant to it.
Number 1, you could have never used a macrolide before. Okay? You see how difficult that becomes, right?
What do you mean?
If somebody's taken azithromycin or clarithromycin ever before, they cannot get that regimen. So you can almost imagine how many of our patients at some point have gotten clarithromycin or azithromycin. Everyone. Number 2 is if your local resistant rate to clarithromycin, if your local resistance to clarithromycin was greater than 15%, don't use it. Or if your triple therapy regimen, CAP regimen efficacy rate is less than 85%, then you don't use it. Okay, so these are the 2 regimens. Now you also have other regimens, salvage therapy, where you combine a bunch of other things as well. Now, so say you test the patient, it's positive today, you pick BMT or CAP, you treat for antibodies for 14 days and PPIs for 28 days. Okay? Antibiotic for 14 days, PPI for 28 days. Okay, now, when are you going to retest them? Because you test, you treat, you're not happy yet. You want to prove that H. pylori is gone, right? So when are you going to do your urea breath test or stool antigen test? When would you have to do an EGD in these patients? Because you didn't have to do an EGD at all, right? Because they came with the gastritis picture, you tested with stool or urea breath test and you treated. So when would you have to do an EGD? Alarm symptoms, right? Same thing. What do you say?
Bleeding.
Sure, if somebody's got bleeding, you do it. But on the context of peptic ulcer disease, more alarm symptoms. Weight loss, dysphagia, anemia, early satiety, stuff like that's present, then you'll again do an EGD because what you're looking for, because gastric ulcer can become gastric cancer. That's what you worry about. What about duodenal ulcer? Are you worried about cancer there? No, the risk is low. The duodenal ulcer cancer risk is low, peptic ulcer cancer risk is high. Sometimes the stomach can stop moving. Okay, and we see this a lot. Patients come with complaints of, I can't tolerate food. I take some food, it's just not moving. Like, I feel full, I feel like I'm throwing up all the time. What are you worried about? Huh?
Gastroparesis?
Yes, gastroparesis. Now, what causes what is gastroparesis?
Delayed emptying.
Yeah, delayed emptying of the stomach. Essentially, your stomach is kind of paralyzed, right? It's not moving. That's the problem, right? So, what causes it? Diabetes is our most notorious one. Good. What else?
GLP agonists.
Yes. So, GLP, right? What is GLP supposed to do? It actually decreases gastric motility. That's supposed to essentially cause a gastroparesis, right? Okay, what else?
MRK.
Anything else?
Opioids.
Hypothyroidism can do it. Okay. What else? How do you diagnose gastroparesis? Yes, you want to do a gastric emptying study first, right? gastric emptying study, and if that tells you yes, the patient does have gastroparesis, then you'll start them on treatment, which is always going to be metoclopramide, right? If you're on metoclopramide, what should you worry about? QT prolongation, yes. Tardive dyskinesia, yes, but again, right, so extrapyramidal side effects. Anytime you block dopaminergic receptors, just like your typical antipsychotics do, then what are the typical antipsychotics? Haloperidol, fluphenazine, thiopyridazine, chlorpromazine, right? So typical antipsychotics, by blocking dopamine, what happens is you have too much, there's an imbalance between dopamine and acetylcholine. So you end up going into the spectrum of extrapyramidal side effect. The first symptom to happen is going to be acute dystonia, which is going to be torticollis, right? So muscle contraction. And then you'll go into akinesia, which is Parkinson's, okay? Then you can have akathisia, which is restlessness, and the last, which is irreversible, is going to be tardive dyskinesia, right? So those are symptoms you always want to watch for when somebody is on metoclopramide. Acutely, is there anything else we can use?